fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
It's been our longest season of Aussie car competition yet, and it comes to its conclusion tonight at round 7 of our 5th edition of the Ozicar Skip Barber Series here on Simspeed TV, brought to you by Simfinity and Prestige Trophy Badge and Engraving. We finish it off as we have to at Mount Panorama for 2 races back to our regular format after some pretty crazy running at the Green Hell last time out. And David, qualifying's only got 30 seconds left. We're seeing times just north of 2.5 minutes, but even so, the times are still ridiculously close.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of long straights here, but also very, very twisty across the top and down those long straights. It is just pedal into the floor on these cars, just waiting to cover all the distance in these relatively low horsepower cars. So a lot of the differentiation is, of course, going to be in the braking zones and how brave you are across the top of the mountain. For the rest of the lap, it doesn't take bravery to hold the throttle at 100% in a straight line.
They get the draft trains going that they can often get, then potentially might take a little bit of bravery on their parts as we take a look at the starting grid then for our opening sprint race of the evening. 6 laps ahead of us, Cameron Dance starting on pole. He's pretty much got the championship wrapped up. Only he could throw it away now. Russell Clark starts second. James Chastanoff and Jason Fewens share row 2. That's a good qualifying from Fewens. Leon Williams and Jeremy Bush are on row 3 ahead of Braden Martin and Sean Doyle. Dennis Hancock and Nathan Verney starting from 9th and 10th.
Then it looks like the rest of our grid is going to be Mark Jeffrey, Peter Wilkinson, Ira Felberg, Reg James, Philip Howe, Matthew Joy, Matthew Mites, Philip Backett-Soulis. No qualifying times for Dean Russell and Darren Lesueur and Cameron Cousins. You didn't get a whole lot of time out there in qualifying, that's for sure, and this is a difficult circuit to keep it off the walls.
No, and as I said, 2.5 minute lap times. Only 10 minutes to work with in the qualifying session. Normally they get 3 laps. They would have been hard pressed to get them in if they messed up any of their laps. You can see the track temp there. Slightly hotter than we've come to expect from Aussie car competitions, isn't it, David? 33 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, we've come down under and it has warmed up. 18 in the air, entirely manageable, very lovely. In fact, even a little bit crisp by our Queenslander standards. But 33 on the track shows there's some power in the sun. And, well, a few places where there's not a lot of shade on the track, they're gridding up now.
15 seconds till those lights come on and we get ourselves a green light for the penultimate race of the season, the final round of our 7-round season. First time Aussie Car's gone past 6 rounds, but it's still been just as fun. Dance off the pole. Can he wrap up this season the way it's gone with a win so far in every race it seemed? Well, let's find out as we go green. And away we go as everyone walks it away from the line relatively smoothly. Chastanoff got a pretty good launch, but just really can't go anywhere with it as he has to settle in behind Russell Clark as we head up Mountain Straight for the first time tonight. It's single file for the whole field until we get right to the back, and we've had a bit of contact. Philip Howe's rear wing is askew. But look at this at the front before we look back there. Russell Clark thought for a moment of a move, David.
Yeah, and then he ducked back into line, and I think that's not a bad idea. If these two can get away, particularly across the top of the mountain, they might be able to break some gap. Then there'll be plenty of time, plenty of opportunity to make some moves. And really, it's like Daytona at the start of the season. You've got to be thinking about Conrod Straight on the final lap.
Martin Doyle and Hancock tried to fit 3 cars into one spot heading into the cutting and wisely decided against it and got themselves single file very quickly as we head under the tree and up across the top of the mountain. It's very fast, this portion of the racetrack, but in these cars that are so rear end loose, it's really tricky to keep the car pointed straight, keep the momentum up. You can see the wheel work, the drivers, their hands coming up and over the canopy of the cars sometimes because they have to soar at the wheel to keep themselves going the direction they want. And Chattanooga doing a good job to hang on in third, isn't he? He's going to get himself a very good double toe down this straight as he gets a bit out of shape, trying to set himself up for Forest Elbow. And the top 3 have broken away from Fewins in 4th. And there's an incident just exiting the dipper in the background.
Looks like Peter Wilkinson, unfortunately, having some trouble at the dipper, but that is the kind of place you're going to find trouble here. Difficult turning downhill braking zone at the lead. Russell Clark has waited for Conrod Straight.
Does Dan step back out into the braking zone? No, he elects to just sit and wait. Does the champion-elect Clark, the only man that can stop him, but I'm pretty sure he needs a DNF for Dance in both races, and even then I'm not sure it's actually mathematically possible. Dance has just been so formidable all season long, much to the disappointment of every member of the Simspeed crew, as they are really still dicing it inside the top 10. Jeremy Bush, you can just see at the back of the shot, very close to the inside wall, because he really lit it up coming out of the final corner. Got the curb on the outside, and that just spat him towards the inside concrete. Luckily, he gathered it up quickly, but it has cost him a spot to Braden Martin.
Yeah, indeed. And then Martin sort of swooped around the outside at turn 1, hell corner, and then has the advantage of being able to get a little bit of the slipstream off the cars in front.
Here's a replay of what happened to Peter Wilkinson at the dipper. This replay brought to you by Virtual Racing School. And just got loose. We know the front left picks up off the ground when you head through the dipper there. David, would you suggest that's what's unsettled the car?
I'd suggest that the dipper has dipped and Peter Wilkinson has become dipped on that one. It's just that one point in the middle of the corner where the track really drops away and he's had either too much throttle or too much brake or just too much input as the car gets unsettled over the bump, gets a bit of airtime and is able to rotate before it then lands again. You've got to set the car up to straight line across there and not carry too much input, and unfortunately he has.
And coming out of the pits there is Cameron Cousins. Don't think we caught what happened to him, but he is a long way back, unfortunately. Should mention as well, not only Virtual Racing School bringing you that replay, not Jay Kennedy. So Jay's making his own life a bit easier, if it wasn't easy enough already, and he's actually got Simon Mizomo to do the replay cameras instead. I don't know how that's working, but that is working.
Magic of the internet, spirit fingers.
Yeah, exactly. 2 people are doing the cameras for this one broadcast, so there you have it.
I think Mizomo's sitting on Jay's lap. That's the undignified silence that deserves. Great battle in the top 3. Big gap back to the top 4, where they're all still fanning out and battling once again. Bit of patience in the top 3. Not a lot of patience from 4th down to 10th. While I think about what I've just said.
I just couldn't think of a response for it, to be honest with you.
That's fine.
Braden Martin. I was sat there, coke in hand, going, I got nothing. Leon Williams and Jeremy Bush are battling away. And just behind them, Nathan Verney and Dennis Hancock are pretty close. And that's Regs James, who's slow coming out of the chase. And Braden Martin is slow out of the last corner. Martin has lost it by himself and actually pulled off a pretty good slide and save. And good avoiding action as well from Leon Williams to avoid him in the process of that shuffle. So we are just about halfway through this race, and the top 3 still have nothing to separate them, and they were very close to the fence. Let's go to the front here, Jay, because they are getting very close into the cutting.
Yeah, nothing in him. Almost nose to tail there as Chastanov in third. You can see has set the fastest lap of the race last time. So the double draft has been very, very good to him in helping him close Cam Dance, who has definitely not let Russell Clark get away at all.
Clark almost got the fence out of Griffin's Bend. And then Dance was wide himself, but not as close to the fence as Clark. And then Chastanov was very shallow of the normal racing line, so it was a very bizarre exit from Griffin's Bend for all three of them. And they converged awkwardly up at the cutting as bouncing down through the S's goes Clark. He doesn't look comfortable at the head of this train, does he? Feeling the pressure, it looks like, from the chasing duo.
I looked at that, and it almost looked like it was Dance who was a little aggressive across the S's.
Another virtual racing school Mizomo replay. Oh, it was contact with Matthew Joy that sent James around. Here we go. Yep, into the back. And almost a synchronized spin. Joy was able to gather it up a bit quicker than James, though, as we head into the chase once more. And you know what Dance is doing, don't you, David? He's just waiting until the final lap to make his move. Side by side behind, though. No waiting for Leon Williams. He's losing spots, and Braden Martin's having to defend because Dennis Hancock wants to make up for the ground that Martin lost at the start of the lap.
Bit of shade across the circuit might cool it off a little bit, but it hasn't cooled the drivers out on track as we got more battles into the chase. And on this one, I think Philip Howe is able to hold off Darren Lesueur for the minute. That top 10 battle has started to fracture out a little bit. 4th and 5th getting away, then 6th, 7th and 8th battling, and 11th hooking their caboose to 9th and 10th. So everyone inside the top 11 is in a battle. It's just not all the one battle anymore as this. It's 4th and 5th.
Over the crest that sits in the middle of Mountain Straight. And Fewins is going to go straight by Doyle, who had the inside line, but elects just to tuck in behind and let Fewins have the spot as Verney straddles the outside curbing. And that's going to be enough for Jeremy Bush to hold on to his position. And it allows Leon Williams to sneak a little bit closer as well, potentially dragging the next two cars along. Martin, Hancock and Jeffries. The next three cars could latch on and make that a bit of a bigger battle. Just to touch back on the leaders here, David, we know Dance is waiting. Clark surely knows this as well. Chatanov's just biding his time in third. He's in a very good spot. I'd like to be in his spot. What do you do if you're Clark? Because I think we know if he comes into the final lap leading the race, all he is relying on is Dance making a mistake and not being able to pass him.
I feel like we've seen this a couple times, honestly, with Clark leading, Dance just waiting, biding his time, and Clark, in this situation, doesn't know what to do at the front.
Oh, hang on, we've got another incident. That looks like the dipper, and that is Jeremy Bush facing the wrong way. Got to be careful about how he gets us pointed the right way. A 4 or 5 point turn is the go. Keep it off the racing line. Wait for a gap. Is that a gap? Yes, it is. And that's a good 3 point turn in the end. And he is back on his way. You mentioned we've seen it a few times with Russell Clark so far this season. I don't think he's got it right this season in any of those times, unfortunately, as we see the replay and some live action as well. Wide of his own accord into the fence on the left. Spins to the right. A mistake we see far too often at that corner.
Easily done. You come across the crest blind, you're braking and trying to slow the car, and if you come across the crest at Skyline a little too hot, then you're too hot through the S's, you're too hot into the dipper, and eventually one of those walls, as the track narrows and tightens, one of those walls is going to get you. Sometimes it's higher up the S's, sometimes it is right there at the apex of the dipper. You just run out of grip as you've carried too much speed in.
Yeah. So the top three a 10-second clear of 4th and 5th, which is remarkable, who are in themselves 5 seconds clear of this group. It's crazy how big the gaps are, yet we still have such intense battles everywhere we look, as Martin just threw one up the inside of Vernie, who immediately tried to come back at him, but he finds himself on the outside of the cutting, which is a no-go zone. So he'll bide his time until Forest Elbow, at least. I think Martin may have just kissed the wall coming out of the cutting. I heard a crunch through my iRacing, and his lack of speed up the hill suggests he probably did give it a little nudge.
He was already missing part of the nose cone. I think that was from maybe a slight graze with the wall at Griffin's Bend a couple laps ago as well. So he still got it going, but it does look a bit sick, bit of a wounded animal.
And remember I mentioned Leon Williams, Hancock, Jeffrey getting dragged in. They have. Jeffrey's been dropped, unfortunately, but Hancock and Williams have definitely been dragged into the fight. So, as predicted, here they are. A 4-car fight for P6, in this race, coming towards the final lap, which will take next time we hit with the stripe. Look at this! I think Russell... yeah, this is some cat and mouse at the lead. Russell Clark's lifting. Dance is lifting. Chastanov had a massive run, but he didn't want to pass any of them, so he lifted as well. This is going to be a slow lap from the top 3, because none of them wanted to be the leader heading onto this last lap, and all of them lifted, but they've all stayed in the same spot.
As you can see, 4th place, almost 10 seconds off the lead now. If 4th place was a little bit closer, then Clark lifting would be more of a threat if there was someone behind, and Dance or Chastanov might think they have to go. But with that much of a buffer behind, Dance would be thinking, yeah, I can give up a second lifting down the straight if I have to. I can give up a 1.5 seconds if I have to, because there's no threat from 4th at the moment as we start the last lap. These 3 almost exist in a bubble for the race win.
So we go Simspeed side by side as we go on to the final lap at Bathurst. On the left, the battle for the lead on the podium. On your right, the battle for 4th and 5th. Into Griffin's Bend. Here comes Chastanov pulling the trigger for 2nd. Dance can't afford to lose this. He's been sitting in 2nd, lying in wait all race long, and he's trying his hardest. He's kept the inside line for the cutting. He hung tough around the outside of Griffin's Bend, and this is going to force Chastanov to back out of the move, but that's given some breathing room for Russell Clark, and Dance is going to have to work hard now across the top of the mountain to claw back time.
Yeah, as long as he stays within a second, I think that's enough to catch down Mountain Straight, where the speeds are so massive and the slipstream so huge. But for Russell Clark, he would be licking his lips, looking in the mirror there, thinking, go too wide, another couple corners, please. I'd love a 1.5 seconds. As it stands, he's got about 7/10, and I worry that's not enough.
Seems like perfect slipstreaming range almost, doesn't it? It's that range where you start to really gain. Was that a slide from Dance through the S's? Looked like that car was on the edge coming down the hill, but look at the leaderboard as the time collapses down to 0.5 seconds for a moment and artificially inflates as they come through the braking zones. But now, out onto Conrod Straight. Does Clark have enough? Was that lunge from Chastanov enough to put Dance in enough jeopardy? And is Chastanov close enough to pull the trigger on Dance before he gets to Clark? I think Clark might be safe. This is going to be tight. Into the chase. Through the kink. Is there a big lunge from Dance coming? He has a look. He gets close. He got to the right rear, but he wasn't alongside him at all. There's nothing covering the top 3. He's got to cover the inside. Russell Clark. Into the last corner we go. Dance looks to the inside. Clark doesn't cover, but he's not close enough. Russell Clark is going to win race 1 at Mount Panorama. Dance is just about going to out-drag James Chastanov to the line for 2nd. And in the battle for P4, David, it's Sean Doyle that loses out to Jason Fewens.
Doyle was +4 positions as the biggest mover, but Jason Fewens is clearly outfoxed him on the final lap for 4th place. Doyle can probably still be proud of moving from 8th to 5th in this one. Wow, good stuff by Russell Clark. We thought where he was, the position that he was kind of cooked on strategy, but little move from Chasty early in the lap, little mistake or two from Dance, Russell Clark is able to hold on for the win against all odds.
What a great scrap we saw. We get to do it again, though, for the feature race coming up on Simspeed a little bit later on. Don't go anywhere as we take a look at our full race results at the end of our 6-lap sprint race. It was Russell Clark that took the win. Turns out he did want to be leading that last lap. Remember I said he's relying on a mistake from Dance. Turns out the mistake was leaving it to the last lap, as Chastanoff got in the way. And Dance finishes second ahead of Chastanoff in third. Fewens takes fourth away on the last lap from Doyle, who finishes fifth. Braden Martin takes P6 ahead of Leon Williams, Nathan Verney, Dennis Hancock, and Mark Jeffrey in P10.
And then Matthew Mites moves from pretty deep in the grid to be one of the biggest movers, 6 places up to 11th. Ira Felberg in 12th. Darren Lasue from the back of the grid and no qualifying time to 13th. Philip Howe in 14th. Reg James 15th. Jeremy Bush 16th. Wilkinson 17th after that early little spin we saw. And Dean Russell is the last finisher, 1 lap down in 18th. Cousins a retirement. No, Cousins finished. Matthew Joy a retirement, and Philip Backett-Soulis not taking the start.
So that does us for the first part of our season finale. We'll go to a quick break here on Simspeed TV, but stick with us. Coming up, the feature race from Mount Panorama for the Ozicar Skip Barber Series.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going with the outside. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God.
Oh.
Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Welcome back to Simspeed TV, to the Ozicar Skip Barber Series, the final round of Season 5 here at Bathurst. let's take a look at the championship standings, how they stacked up coming into the round. Remember, Russell Clark just won the first race of the evening, with Cameron Dance coming second and Chastanov coming home in third. Won't have done too much to the standings. It was Chastanov that was second, so he's lost a tiny bit of ground to Dance. Clark's clawed in a little bit, but he will still be third. Chastanov will still be second. Dance will be the champion now, officially confirmed. He is uncatchable, and so Dance wins another championship, and he can add that to his trophy collection. There's still some spots up for grabs further down the order to keep your eye on. Braden Martin, Jeremy Bush still fighting it out for P6, and some other minor positions too. Now, in terms of schedule for the rest of the season, we've got a free season, or a mini season, or an off season, whatever you want to call it, David, coming up between now and season 6.
Pre-season cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this is the end of this season for Ozicar Skip Barber Formula Series, but definitely not the end of Ozicar. So we have the information of upcoming season. It's going to include 3 free entry, free track races coming up. So if you've been watching some of these broadcasts, or, you know, looking for a league to race the Skippy, because a lot of people have the Skippy, a lot of people like the way it races, but maybe want to get away from some of the official series, then hit up Ozicar on all of their platforms for the details of how you can sign up for that free league that's going to bridge the gap between the end of this season and the start of the next full feature Ozicar Formula Skip Barber Series. And of course, that on your screen right now, Oran Park, Texas Motor Speedway road course, Summit Point Raceway, for 3 sort of, I think you could call them exhibition events or something, or invitationals or something. You could have a cutesy little name like that for them between now and start of next season.
Yep, and then Season 6 begins. The Classics World Tour, it's officially named. That'll be broadcasted at the same time as normal. Should note the off-season is not broadcasted, but Season 6 will be, and that kicks off in the UK at Silverstone before we head to Monza, Okayama, Sao Paulo, Lime Rock, and then we round out the season right back here at Bathurst. So it should be a cracking season. There's some great race tracks there. Can't wait to head to Bathurst and Sao Paulo, Silverstone. Lime Rock's a great little track as well, and Monza's going to provide plenty of high-speed racing as well. Certainly a great racing calendar, and just hearing that Monza's on the junior layout too, it should be interesting.
It's almost a right turning oval, that junior layout. It's interesting for the skippies, you know, a fiddly little bit to open the lap, and then the back straight and parabolica, and then the pit straight and braking a little bit early. So that'll be something to watch in the skippies. I guess a car like the skippies is what that layout is for.
Yes, indeed. All right, so that kicks off on the 18th of March, I think. On the 18th of March, somewhere around that number, first week of the next iRacing season. So a few weeks until we kick that off. But qualifying is now underway in the more immediate future for our final race of this season. And there is Ira Felberg, the man behind it all, and the man at the wheel of 111 Esports, number 85, Skip Barber. 05, sorry.
Now, this will be the outlap for him, and what a generous outlap it is across Mount Panorama. A beautiful scenic drive. It should mean that by the end of this lap, though, the tyres are going to be pretty close to the window. Compared to Monza Junior or Lime Rock or other tracks coming up, where really you're waiting until the second or the third lap before your tyres are anything near giving their maximum performance. But he does need to be careful on this outlap as he warms the tyres, because as we would have seen from race 1 of this round tonight, any problems during qualifying, you hit the wall anywhere at any time, and you're really not going to get a qualifying run, because this far into the session, hit the wall and need to reset now, you can say maybe you're going to get one timed lap after that. Yeah,
as you mentioned, short qualifying, and it is going to be tricky to get it right, especially on a track that is lined by concrete and situated on a mountain, for goodness sake. Here's Mark Jeffrey. We saw him finish 10th in race 1, and he was just off the back of that battle for P6 as well. He could have been in it, but he just dropped off a little bit in terms of pace towards the end of that one. So maybe if he hangs onto his tyres slightly better and manages his tyre temps slightly better, he might be able to keep himself in that fight if the race pans out slightly differently. So certainly keep an eye on Mark in this one, I suspect. Haven't seen too much of him, have we?
But I think that pays. I think that pays to what's important about this qualifying session is passing is relatively easy here with the slipstream, but actually getting up the road and being able to catch the next pack is difficult. So if you start deep in the field, you could have all the race pace in the world, but by the time you've worked your way up into, 6th or 7th or 5th or whatever, your Cameron Dances and your James Chastanovs of the world have already skipped away 10 seconds down the road, and you're never bridging that gap to get to the lead pack. So, if you want to stand on the podium at the end of this race, it would look like qualifying well is important, because after 1 lap, 2 laps, if you're not with the draft train of the leaders, you're done.
Qualifying is always important at Daytona. At Bathurst. Qualifying is always important at Bathurst.
I thought we were in Monza.
No, it's not,
Is the full layout called Monza Senior?
Because of the nature of the circuit. You get from, this point onwards, the cutting, and it's very much straight circuit, isn't it? It's blind corners, lined by concrete. If one car makes a mistake on the opening laps, it's going to take out a lot of cars, and if you're at the back, you're probably going to get taken out as well. So you want to be towards the front to eliminate those sorts of issues. And we do see that every now and again in sprint races, and often in endurance races in iRacing. And that can happen really at any time. But
right, like what happens if you're 10th or something, and on lap 1, 4th and 5th come together and block the cutting? There's your chance of winning the race. Sort of, gone. Lap 1 shenanigans, always a possibility here.
Yeah, exactly right. So, qualify well at Bathurst. Step number 1. It's doing well in the race. It goes anywhere, but I think it's especially important at a place like this. We're watching Dean Russell at the moment. He's had a pretty steady lap so far, 59.2 to the first sector, a 37.3 to the second sector. Heading up Conrod Straight now. Conrod Straight, of course, used to be one big old straight down towards Murray's Corner. Chase was implemented for safety reasons. Now it's the fastest corner in Australia, so not quite sure how much safer it actually made it. Russell actually got a bit out of shape there and lost the rear end, but he gathers it up nicely and meets the apex beautifully. Bit wide, but
well, I think now you lose your brakes. Instead of ending up in the town, you end up in the gravel trap in a hotel instead of down the road there and, at the KFC.
Yeah, I know.
So is it really an
No, I'd
improvement
take the first one. I'd take the KFC.
Yeah. I haven't heard great things about the food and beverage offering at the hotel.
Can't match KFC. 2:35.8 for Russell, puts him 10th after the first 14 times have been put on the board. Matthew Mites is heading through McPhillamy Park, which is a much less demanding corner in a Skip Barber than it is in much of the other cars you'll take around this circuit. Going down the hill does seem more difficult, though, because of the nature of the car. Some corners are much easier in a Skippy. Some corners are much harder.
Definitely downhill and across the bumps, the Skippy looks mighty twitchy on those tyres. Whereas you're right, in some of the higher horsepower GT cars and supercars, etc., it's coming across the mountain at, your Reed Parks and your McPhillamys, where you're right on the limit, going very quickly, right up with the concrete barriers, and you've got to breathe the throttle a little bit to make the car rotate, and then, get back into it with confidence and track all the way out.
Well, a lot of the weight for the cars in the rear, isn't it? So you know, you put that power down, and it's the rear end that wants to swing about and do all the work. So you've got to really try to control that. And when the car is so lightweight, you just really, really feel it. And you can see it even there for Matthew Mites, as he manhandles it through the last corner, crosses the line, and fails to put a validated lap together. So he'll get one more attempt.
Wilkinson coming to the line, trying to get a lap.
Goes 14.
Yeah, the answer is definitely a lap, 2:36. And by those numbers, he's just got time to come around and complete another one. Sean Doyle throwing it around through the chase. Looks good, but this is going to be... depends if we have a hard cut to the end of qualifying, but time is running out.
I think we do.
I don't think we do. I don't think we do for Skippies. I think he might get one more. He might get one more lap. Chastanoff, good time.
Yeah, 2:32 flat. Chastanoff currently with a provisional pole, but not for long, because there goes Russell Clark with a 2:31.843. Cameron Dance hasn't even set a lap time though. In fact,
I think he's already popped open the champagne.
He's not even on the racetrack. You're right. He's started celebrating already. Maybe he's going to challenge himself for once and start from the back. As Mark Jeffrey looks to keep himself inside of the top 10. He currently is 10th. He was as high as 8th, I saw for a minute. Let's see what he can do with this lap.
It's hard to know, looking at the time, exactly how the lap is gonna track out. So come through the final corner, and the line comes up very quickly for Mark Jeffrey, who improves his time but not his position, just a fractional improvement. And he says, "That's it. That's my qualifying done."
He found 0.4 of a second. He needed to find another 0.05, and he would have jumped on Williams. It's a shame, but he did a good job. And he should be well in the mix for a couple of spots extra in the race. As Nathan Verney, who's currently 7th. In fact, Cameron Dance has started celebrating early. He's doing donuts on the racetrack right now. Verney, 7th place, comes to pit lane. Remember, we can pick up what Dance is doing. Here's Wilkinson.
Well, we did pick up that that's not how you take pit in.
Yeah.
He's playing in the sand at turn 1 there.
Certainly accurate to his maturity level, playing in the sand there. Wilkinson 17th across the line, goes 13th. Good improvement from Wilkinson. He'll be happy with that. That leaves 2 without times. Dance and Lassu. Time runs out. Let's go through our starting grid. It is a hard cut. There you go. 10 laps, and Russell Clark has the pole from James Chastanoff, who will start on the outside of the front row. Jeremy Bush and Braden Martin on row 2 ahead of Sean Doyle and Jason Fewins. Nathan Verney and Dennis Hancock starting 7th and 8th. Leon Williams and Mark Jeffrey 9th and 10th.
Interesting to see Doyle and Fewins side by side once again, seeing how they battled in race 1. But it's Felberg in 11th, Matthew Mites in 12th, Peter Wilkinson a bit higher up the grid in 13th, Reg James in 14th, Dean Russell, Cameron Cousins, Philip Howe, Matthew Joy, and Cam Dance. No qualifying time in 19th. What can he do in this feature pit stop race? Aaron Lassu also no qualifying time. Hope we see him on the grid.
So 10 laps, tracked. We've been seeing 20-odd degree track temps all season long. But for this last race, Ira's just turning it up, isn't he? 33 degrees in race 1, 39 for race 2. What's the effect going to have on these drivers with a 39-degree track temp, David?
I think it's going to be mighty slippy. I think Bathurst isn't actually a particularly high grip surface anyway before that. So, yeah, a few places that the car will have a lot of slip angle, particularly across the top of the mountain. I'm thinking particularly the cutting, for example. You're going to want to bring your braking a little bit further forward. That guy in the green shirt on the roof is absolutely pumped. So is his brother, who's also wearing a green shirt. And they've got a great view up there.
Can you get on the roof?
I think you could for some events.
You can for some races, says our director. All right, time is up for the last time in Season 5. It's lights out and time to go racing in the Ozicar Formula Skip Barber Series. Nice start from Russell Clark to lead us through Turn 1 from Chastanov, Bush, Martin and Doyle. Side by side there between Greg James and Cameron Cousins, who had a poor exit already, getting overtaken by Cameron Dans, who's picked up 4 spots already? How?
4, I guess a good launch in the hot temperatures.
Looking up the inside for Turn 2, James Chastanoff wants to lead early on to take it away from Clark. Is going to force the issue at the cutting, potentially, hopefully not. Clark a little bit out of shape. Tyres will be quickly coming up to temperature, but it'll be very slippery indeed over a bump that exists simply to annoy you right on the inside. And then as they head over the hill, mountain, past Solomon Reed Park. Chastanov is sitting right under that rear wing, isn't he? He's not leaving much breathing room. In fact, he's probably close enough for a cheeky look at Skyline. He did take a cheeky look.
Russell Clark feels...
Oh, a mistake! That could be ugly from Clark. Chastanov goes all the way around the outside of the tipper. What a move!
When do you ever see that? And when do you ever see that not end in tears as well? James Chastanoff to the lead. The pressure on Clark ended up doing something. But the way that battle has kept everyone else in the draft on lap 1. They've not broken it.
I want a replay of that. That was awesome from Chastanov. Opportunistic. Saw the mistake from Clark and said, I'll do you around the outside of the dipper. They're about to go 3 wide maybe behind him as well. Fewens with the run. Martin going absolutely nowhere. Clark's trying to go back by Chastanov as well. It's all kicking off on the final race of the season. Side by side, through the chase. Chastanov and Clark, they sort out behind them and go single file. Clark is back to the lead of the race. And straight to pit lane for Clark. No, he fakes. Chastanov does pit. Martin stays out. Bush comes in with Fewens and Doyle. And a whole bunch more. Hancock. And into the fence for Nathan Verney on the exit of the last corner.
Good game there. He's found a couple of the concrete blocks around this track. What a fake from Russell Clark, though, on pit lane. He looked, and then he didn't. And then Chastanov, I think, is just sticking to do the opposite of what he does strategy on that one. Interesting for Martin. Still be right up behind Russell Clark.
What an opening lap that was. Here we go. Virtual Racing School replay of the greatest overtake you'll ever see at the dipper. Clark's mistake and Chastanov on the slide as well. He just absolutely nailed it. That's about a 1 in a million, isn't it? There's no grip there. That's the thing you've got to explain as well. There's just no grip on the outside of the dipper.
No, it's absolutely one line, which means there's no grip anywhere except the racing line, which makes it absolutely one line. It feeds back into itself why no one ever does that. Somehow he did, and it didn't end in tears. And the presence of mind from Clark to keep his car pinned to the inside as well, and not open himself up to an incident by drifting out wide as well. From both of them, that is top class awareness and driving. And now, one of them has pitted. Chastanov. Clark is still on the racetrack and leading this race. Do you have a weird pit stop time from Matthew Mites?
I have no pit stop times.
Okay. Well, that would be a weird one then, for sure, because We saw a lot of people jump onto the lane. They've got to change 2 tyres. Normally that takes 10 or 11 seconds. For Matthew Mites, I'm only seeing about a 2-second stop, which would not be conducive to jacking up the car, undoing 10 nuts, taking the wheels off, putting new ones on, and then doing up another 10 nuts. I think he's gone fuel only by accident.
Unless he's kidnapped the Red Bull F1 pit crew.
Even then, for these tyres, these wheels,
so potentially taking a fast repair then, and maybe an oversight that's left his tyres still on the car. So he'll have to come back to the pits. As Braden Martin and Russell Clark both come in on this lap, joined by Nathan Verney, who whacked the fence at the last corner, I remember, on the previous lap. Leon Williams stays out with Cameron Dance, who's somehow gotten very close to what would be the effective lead of the race. We always talk about how easy it is to launch these cars. It's always a very, very even launch off the line, which is why I was so bewildered by how we'd gained 4 or 5 spots by the time we left turn 1, lap 1. There's Chastanoff. Clark gets drops off the jacks. He's coming out of pit lane now. I think Clark has got this. No, it's going to be close, yeah. Chastanoff's got the speed. You're right, David.
Battle on. Resume fight, gentlemen, because there is no way that Clark's going to get dropped. He's basically up to speed. This for the effective race lead. Both these guys have made their pit stops. They're ahead of everyone else who's made a pit stop, as Mites has come back down onto the lane for a second time, and this time it looks like the tyre change has happened. So costly little blunder there potentially, because we've seen Mites run rather well last week and this week. Always a threat in the top 10, always a threat for a top 5.
Good to see the pit stops shake out between the 2 race leaders, and they stay close together as well. Don't often see that, because there's a lot of variables that go through the pit stop phase that often prevent that from happening, David.
I mean, a very, very challenging pit entry that has its own racing line and its own curbs and its own apexes.
A chicane.
It needs its own braking markers, I think, as well. So a very, very challenging pit entry. Then to a relatively slow pit lane speed limit, where there's no pit lane speed limiters in these cars. So how close you want to go to that speed limit is entirely up to you and can be worth a little bit of time. And then how you line up with your pit crew in the pit box. Do you hit the marks perfectly aggressively on the first time, or do you have to maybe coast it in a little bit?
If you're wondering, for some reason, where Cameron Dance is, there he is. He's on the right-hand side of your screen. Let's see if he comes into pits this time. Doesn't look like it. He is going to stay out as long as he probably can and use the clean air to try and pull himself to a spot where he's going to rejoin the racetrack ahead of Clark and Chastanoff. And can I just say, not only for my despise of Dance winning every single race this season almost, but for the racing, I hope he doesn't. Because I want to see a battle for the win between these two.
Would be very, very spicy, no doubt. So almost a little bit of tyre weaving or something going on there for Clark right up behind Chastanoff, but as they get their tyres up to speed, just done a 2:32.8 for Chastanoff, a second off what Dance has just managed. So the overcut, in theory, could work for Dance the way it is going.
Yeah, that's a very good lap time from Cameron Dance. We'll give him that. What's the pit stop delta? That's what we got to look at. Currently, he's going to be happy because Russell Clark's looking up the inside of James Chastanoff. That'll slow them down as he completes the move, does Clark, just up the road from where we were. There you go. Clark is back into the potentially effective race lead. He'll cover off the inside for the cutting. Chastanoff won't be able to get around the outside there. Maybe I would have said that about the dipper as well. What's the pit stop delta that you're seeing over on your timing software?
I don't have an exact delta. What I do have is the pit lane times from the entry cone to the exit cone of about 33 seconds. including, taking the tyre change. And that's not the exact delta, because obviously the pit exit cone is a good couple hundred meters further down the road than the pit entry cone is. So it's always a little bit less than that. It's sort of the pit lane time minus how long it takes to get from pit in to pit out on the racetrack. Yeah, so probably closer to 25, 26, and I'm seeing Dance with about 22 seconds at the moment.
Well, normally, you would be looking at it. Normally, you'd be looking at a car going much faster at that point of the racetrack. But Jeremy Bush looked a bit slow there, didn't he? Normally, you'd be looking at a pit stop delta there, with them losing extra time to get it slowed down to get to that pit entry. But the way it is at Bathurst, you gain time coming into pit lane, don't you? Which is why it's a little bit unique, because you cut out that last corner, even with the extra chicane.
Yeah, but the time getting down to pit lane speed and getting back up to pit lane speed is a couple seconds. Even at full racing speed, it takes, 5, 6, 7 seconds to get from the last corner to the first corner down the pit straight. So the delta is always a little bit less than the lane transit time.
Remember, we picked up Jeremy Bush a moment ago. Well, thanks to Virtual Racing School, we'll see why he looks slow. He's done the typical dipper doo-doo and found at the fence. Good job to reverse out of the way before potentially Dennis Hancock. It came along and cleaned him up. As coming out of pit lane there are a few cars. Cameron Cousins coming out of the lane. And Jeremy Bush coming in for some repairs and a spare car. Chastanova's back ahead of Russell Clark. 31.9, 31.9 for those two. 31.8 for Cameron Dance. 22 seconds, the gap between them.
Interesting. No idea yet how to call that one, if Dance has enough time or not. I think it just comes down to what these two do. They've been swapping their lead here and there, not looking like they're holding each other up, but as we watch them, if there's a sign of, the lead car defending and consequently both of them losing a bit of time, then I think they're in trouble for the race win. And I think both of them are smart enough competitors, have been in the series long enough to realize that.
Yeah, I think Dance at this point is looking at coming out about 5 or so seconds behind them. I think. Don't quote me on it. Big thanks again to, of course, Infinity and Prestige Badge, Trophy and Engraving for their support all season long, helping putting on these races and these broadcasts as we take a look at a couple of battles. Clark and Chasano for the race lead, but Doyle and Verney having a little... They were nose to tail a minute ago, but Doyle's just got by and run away through Forest Elbow. So they may have just about sorted themselves out as Clark, guess what, is back by Chastano. Probably not for long.
Critically though, Dance smashing in the lap times he needs, and these guys swapping once again. Is that going to let them get anything close to 231.2? I think the answer is no, as they go side by side.
32.4. 1.2 seconds slower than Cameron Dance on that lap.
Come on, boys.
If Russell Clark lets Cameron Dance walk away and win this race, I will be having words with him.
We all will. What is going on right here? He's moving one way, he's moving the other way. Might have like a cramp in his leg or something. Just moving the car around like that. No other explanation.
Dance has to pit before lap... He has to pit at the end of lap 8 at the latest. Yep, that's right. So he's got 3 more opportunities to dive to the lane. this, the next, one after that.
Leon Williams also out there having not pitted, and it's just those two who've gone this long into the race without their compulsory pit stop. They were trading times between Dance and these two, but the lap just gone, I think, was not nice to Chastanoff and Clark, and if they do that again, then you think they're in trouble. If they can avoid that, they still are, I think, within the pit stop window of Cam Dance.
Ooh, that was a bit close to the wall. Coming out of Forest Elbow for Nathan Verney, who's in the tow of Sean Doyle. He's got Jason Fewens about 40 car lengths back as well. Potentially a threat in a little while as Clark ranges up on the back, but not by Chastanoff. Here comes Verney to the inside and by Sean Doyle. That's for P6. And that battle is helping Braden Martin in P5 just edge away ever so slightly. So he'll be happy to see that battle continue. As Dance is a 31-1, Clark and Chastanoff manage 32-4, 32-7s. They've lost 2 seconds since. They've lost 2 seconds since I said Dance will probably be about 5 seconds behind them. So they've got 3 seconds to play with, I reckon. 27 seconds is what I'm saying, is where Dance needs them to be. That's my estimate.
Comes the Verney Doyle battle once again. They battled into the chase. They'll battle here. Sean Doyle will hold on to 5th. Was he not robbed of 5th in race 1? So I think the desire to get the top 5 once again is strong.
And of course in iRacing, he managed to become top 5. A little stat sheet. Become top 5, it's all good. Become 6, the stats don't care. Found that weird in iRacing, how on the stats, the little profile, it's top 5s, not top 10s that it counts.
Bit of an oval holdover, isn't it? They love counting championship top 5s and, you know, career top 5s and such. We're watching Dance in the little box. We're watching Doyle and Verney, big picture. Verney, I think, uses the slipstream well, but it just doesn't seem to be right up behind the gearbox of Doyle part of the way across the top. Waiting. This is the penultimate chance for Dance to pit. If he doesn't pit at the end of this lap, if he doesn't pit right now, we know he's pitting next lap.
They've lost another second on this lap. Dance is going to stretch it. I said earlier on, I said earlier on he'd do it as long as late as he could. Side by side between Verney and Doyle again. Fewens not getting any closer, unfortunately, for him.
These two are within a breath of catching Braden Martin right up there. Martin and Verney teammates could work together on trying to box Doyle out of this if Verney catches him, or Verney could play cork in the bottle. I wonder what the team game might look like for those two with just a couple laps left.
Yeah, well, thought Martin was going to skip away with this battling, but it turns out the battling is helping them as they slingshot each other down the straights. Martin's going to be in trouble on this last lap, I think. Clark clued up, I think, to Dance's threat. Still sitting behind Chastanoff, wiggling away there. Their last lap, by the way, 31.8 for both of them, 31.49 for Dance. So they clawed back something. Dance is only 3/10 quicker than them, but still pulled a bit of an advantage. Just not a massive one. He's got to pit at the end of this lap.
Picked up the pace to what it should have been for a couple laps these two. They should have been in the 31s, you know, all the time. There was those couple laps that they lost valuable time that they could not get back. And it's made it from sure thing these guys will come out a couple, so Dance will come out a couple seconds behind these guys to maybe Dance will come out within the slipstream of these two. If Dance beat me last to first in this race, I'd sell my equipment. You'd find a listing for this trusty G27.
Well, it's all going to come down to this next 30 seconds. Camera Dance is going to peel left, or he's going to defy all logic and keep going right. But peeling left into pit lane. So this is the moment. The gap as he comes in is 26.26 seconds, or a second shy of what I thought was the margin Dance needed. So, in theory, Chastanoff and Clark end up a second clear of Cameron. So what's probably going to happen is Dance ends up 3 seconds clear of them.
Dance has had some of the best pit stops all season long as well. Just does well on pit lane, seems to hit the marks well, and pit stop is perfectly configured to come out, you know, closer to 10 seconds than 12 seconds. That's always sort of the window that it happens, but there's some random in there, and Dance has often had some good pit stops. He is rolling, though, towards pit exit, and it is going to be mighty, mighty close.
Now, they got him covered by... Oh, wow, probably about a second.
By not that much. It doesn't feel like that much.
Well, by the time they get up to speed, it will be. Here comes Clark pulling out of the draft. 7. Nope, that's... Come on. Come on, Jake, pull up. 9 tenths. 8 tenths. Clark is into the lead of the race. Almost a second. So, I mean, I was close enough, right?
I mean, I think the big difference, the key difference is within a second or outside of a second. Because if he's outside of a second with no slipstream,
he's in the
those
fight.
cold tyres were going to hurt him. But he's within a second. He can stick with these guys. And by the end of next lap, he's going to be right fighting fit in this battle for the top 3 once again. Yeah.
Well, he's there now. And Clark saw that and went straight up the inside of Chastanoff. He wants to be in the same position he was on the race one. Sean Doyle, by the way, has got ahead of Braden Martin in that battle for P5. So the last lap danger happens to be penultimate lap danger for him. And in fact, has Braden Martin... No, he's not. He's still running P5. In fact, was there someone else who hadn't pitted because they've all jumped up one spot?
Let's see. Dean Russell has maybe retired. Bush made a second pit stop.
Martin was 5th, and he's been passed, and he's still 5th. Oh, well.
Was it the... yeah, Leon Williams
Might have
pitted
been.
the lap previous, I think.
Leon Williams is in there. Chastanoff then into the chase, looking to come back at Clark side by side, out of shape. The rear end kicking out from behind him, but he gets into the lead. So Chastanoff and Clark have had nothing between them all race long. Dance has come from the back of the grid, and still he has a chance to win. One more time around in Season 5.
Top 3 battling, the next 3 battling, scrap on for every position in the top 6, and it's going to be about the positioning and the mind games for who wins this one. There's nothing to separate the top 3. You can see that with the evidence of your eyes.
Clark wanted to cover, but he also wanted to tell he got caught nowhere. And now they're going to be 3 abreast for the lead of the race, heading up Mountain Straight towards turn 2 on the final lap. Chastanoff on the outside, Dance on the inside, backing out, Clark in the middle. He has the preferred lane to Griffin's Bend. Chastanoff goes from 1st to 3rd, Dance is into 2nd, Clark leads this race.
Yeah, clever from Cam to back out of that one and then take the racing line because Chastanoff had nothing.
Oh no,
out
Clark's wide. Was that a mistake or was that intentional from Clark? Now Dance is wide. Air quotes. Cat and mouse, some games being played here. No one wants to lead. On Conrod Straight, there's no 3/4 of a second margin in hand like there was last lap. Last race.
Well, what do you do if you're Clark leading? What do you do if you're Dance in second, looking forward, but also looking back? And if you're Chastanov in third, you're still going to need a miracle to be able to shoot past both of these guys into the lead. And I think Dance is just backing it up, leaving a couple car lengths to Clark so that he can get the run, get the momentum, and swallow him up and not be able to get past back. But it means Chastanov is right at his gearbox.
Yeah, but Dance will stay in the draft of Russell Clark here, if he can. Clark will move over and give Chastanov the draft, and now he'll move back over and give Dance a draft if he can. Yes, that's exactly what he does. Clever from Clark, but he's got to be careful because Chastanov's coming with an almighty head of steam into the chase. Chastanov can't move it over. He gets into Clark. A little wiggle from him. 3 wide through the chase. On the last lap, a touch. Takes out Chastanov from Clark. Dance has gotten through. And on the last lap, Cameron Dance has come through it all from the back of the grid. And Cameron Dance is going to win the final race of the season. And with that, he wins the championship as well.
Crazy stuff on the last lap, 3 wide into the chase, and unfortunately, there isn't room for 3 cars through the apex there, but it's also a drag race between the teammates Martin and Verney for 4th. Braden Martin gets that one, so Sean Doyle ends up getting a top 3 on the podium.
Well, there you have it. Cameron Dance truly can win, no matter where he starts. You can't be mad at him for that win, can you? That was well-deserved. He drove a flawless race.
At least it was exciting.
To come from the back to win that as well. As we look at a replay, is this of the contact at the chase between the 3 of them? It is. With Dance on the inside, Clark couldn't turn in, and as you say, you just can't fit 3 cars through there.
Not at that kind of speed, you can't, for sure. It was predictable that someone was going to have trouble, and the question was, is it going to be, Dance on the inside getting squeezed, or was it going to be Chastanov all the way around the outside there, just getting run out of room as the 2 on the inside crowd the apex?
What a finale, though, to the season. Let's look at our results from race 2 at Mount Panorama, where Cameron Dance emerged victorious after starting 19th, electing not to qualify despite winning, electing not to qualify because he'd already won the championship, wanting to give himself a different challenge for the final race after starting pretty much on the front row for the entire season, winning, 8 races this season in total, David? 8 or 9?
Certainly, too many to count on one hand, but I think you could fit them on 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, a dominant performance in cars that race really, really closely are super draft dependent, and it can be difficult if you've got, 2/10 of a second a lap advantage to actually do anything with that. So he's been dominant and deserved.
So he wins by 10.5 thereabouts over Russell Clark. Doyle home in 3rd. Braden Martin, Nathan Verney 4th and 5th out of James Chastanov, Jason Fewens, Dennis Hancock, Leon Williams, and Cameron Cousins, your top 10.
Then the rest of our field goes Reg James, Darren Lesueur, Mark Jeffrey, Jeremy Bush, Philip Howe, the last car on the lead lap, and then 1 lap down for Felberg, Mites, and Wilkinson, and basically retirements for Matthew Choi, Dean Russell. A lot of the drivers have actually lined up on Conrod Straight now, headed for that famous Bathurst jump.
No. Come on, Jay. Come on,
Jay. This to send the season off with a bang and a leap.
Yeah. In fitting fashion. You better not mess up the camera angle, Jay. Otherwise, you will have ruined the entire season. There you go. And this is why we do sim racing and not real racing.
Oh, they're all in the fence.
Indeed they are. Ooh, they're all having terrifying crashes. Cameron Dance joins us in the commentary booth. Cameron, congratulations, you won the championship. Somehow you've won the second race as well.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised I actually won that with how far I started back and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was, I think, quite clear with the fact that James and Russell were fighting quite hard during the race. It helped me certainly pull a little bit of a gap. So yeah, can't complain in the end, and take championship is even sweeter.
I think Clark clued on to your danger at some point in that race and started trying to sit and wait. But obviously, you did such a good job at the front with your outright pace that they couldn't get far enough in front in terms of the delta time for your pit stop. But you came out behind them. You still had to pass them, but you set yourself up perfectly for the last lap and a half. You had to get it done 3 wide a couple times actually on that last lap. Some great decision making moments on your part. What was sort of the thought process? There was certainly a couple moments where there was some maybe decisions masked as mistakes from you and Clark, i.e. running wide.
When we were heading 3 wide up Mount Straight, I was looking at it going, who's going to back out, because I'm on the inside and I don't want to give it up. So yeah, I decided to just slot him behind Russell because I knew he was going to have a slightly preferred line, and then obviously James on the outside was going to get washed out, so, based on what I discovered in race 1. So I was like, well, might as well just follow Russell through. And then when he ran wide at the cutting, I was like, oh, I should have done that. And then I ended up doing it at the next corner, so it was just a matter of giving it back, and then pretty much from there getting the draft off him. I thought I wasn't going to have it with the gap I had coming down Conrod and how James was trying to hold the draft out of me, but we ended up closing up, and then once we came down to the chase and we ended up 3 wide, I really just tried to send it in as hard as I could and hug the inside, and I was pretty much on the curb, so I couldn't have really done much different to avoid an incident if there was going to be one. But unfortunately James just got a little bit of hit from Russell by the looks of it. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate that James ended up spinning out, because that would have been a really, really good finish. But yeah, it was a really, really hectic last lap, that's for sure, and probably one of the better ones, I think.
Certainly was a lot of fun, that second race. The first one as well. First one didn't quite go your way. What went wrong in that first one? You were setting yourself up. You made a decision to stay second. It backfired though, didn't it? With Chastanov having a look.
I don't think it was my fault, really. I mean, I did nothing wrong per se. It was just a matter of the fact that James decided he wanted to have a red hot go at Griffin's Bend and send it up the inside rather than just sitting in behind me and waiting. So it was mostly James's fault that we ended up balking each other and just from there losing a lot of time. But yeah, the mistake on the way down Skyline was my own fault, so I'll definitely take that one. But yeah, it certainly didn't help that James sent it up the inside.
Can't blame another driver for having a crack on the last lap. He was third. He needed to get to second, Cameron. But you learnt. You got the win in race 2. You've got the championship. So now you got a couple of weeks off before the next season. I assume we'll see you back.
Yeah, I think I've given the same answer 3 times now. I'll have to see what happens, but I think I might have a season off and just give it a miss for 1 season to get my head around what else is going on with majors and everything else. But yeah, if not, I'll be back. That's for sure.
Well, thank you for joining us. And who do you want to thank for helping you?
Yeah, just obviously shout out to Ira and everybody for the awesome series and awesome racing all season long. You guys for putting on an awesome broadcast each time out, and obviously all our partners and everybody on the card, TechSense Centers, Renville Harnesses, DM Tweaks, Fight CRC, Kiwi Simulators, Hyper Stimulator, Sim 3D, and all the boys at TechSense Fitstyle Motorsport.
Thank you very much, Cam, and congratulations once again on race 2 and the championship as well. Now, David Haynes is going to have a chat to Russell Clark. We said, David, we're going to have a few words with this man if he let Cameron Dance win the race, and well, he did.
This time, it wasn't my fault. I'm sorry.
You're gonna make me the bad guy, and I gotta say, Russell Clark, but what an interesting night for you in these top 3 battles, both races. Playing the chess game and the positioning and giving the toe and breaking the toe. I mean, Definitely. You stand on the podium, both races, and you had a very, very interesting evening.
Yeah, it was good fun, both races. First race, it was good to finally get a win. It's been since, I think, the first race at Pocono 3 seasons ago. That long since I've had a win. I think I got pretty lucky in the end when Justy sent it on Cam on the last lap.
It was all talent, Russell.
I had just enough space to hold off the draft down Conrad. Second race, I don't think Cam should have caught us. I was trying to work with Chasty, but he seemed a little less experienced with how the skippies work around Bathurst with the draft, etc. We went through a few corners side by side, which cost us some time. So after that, I just sat behind him to try and minimise the time loss, which was just enough to keep up with Cam. And then that last lap was great fun. It was a shame we had the contact in the chase, but no way I was going to back out of there in the last lap.
No, understandable. You guys go 3 wide through the chase. It ends in a little bit of tears, but somehow 2 wide through the dipper on lap 1, just fine. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think, if I remember correctly, Chasty poked the nose in, or at least maybe it was a netcode car right call, but yeah, it kind of screwed my entry line and I just completely messed up the whole series there. Got a bit lucky. Could have been a blocked track, but we got away with it.
Talking about the track temperatures were, I think, a little on the warmer side than we've seen for a lot of this series. Any noticeable effect there, particularly in the pit stop race on the tyres?
Not so much. It was a little slipperier than usual on the first couple of laps, but it came up to speed pretty quick.
And what about this track? Obviously, everyone in Australian sim racing, motor racing fandom, very, very well familiar with it. Did that make the racing any different than some of the other tracks we've been to that are maybe less popular for the skippy?
Yeah, I've done way too many laps around this track in this car, so I know how the races work. I know how to play the strategy. I don't usually get it right, but I understand it, so yeah.
And finally, any words for your dedicated Milo fans watching?
Are they actually watching this time? I told them to.
Oh, there's at least one.
So hello. And also, yeah, cheers to everyone else involved with all this. You guys, Ira, the participants, and especially Jay. He's my fave.
Oh, how much did he pay you? Well, we got to get this bloke out of the box. See you later, Russell.
Cool. See you guys.
Russell Clark comes home in second place and takes the race win as well tonight. And we'll have a chat as well to Ira Felberg, who wants to say a few words. Ira, another great season in the books.
Yes, thank you, guys. My internet decided to cut out there halfway through the last race, but anyway, mechanical failure even in sim racing. I was just talking to the guys in the other end there, and I was just saying, I reckon I don't know what you guys think, but it's probably been the best season. Keeps getting better, that's for sure. It's a really good bunch of drivers, so yeah, I'm really lucky.
Certainly are, and we're running an off-season, a pre-season, a mini-season, whatever you want to call it. We couldn't decide between now and season 6. Reasoning behind that? What are you looking to get from that?
Yeah, well, basically, we've come out of line with the iRacing because they had a 13-week season, like a catch-up, and that with Christmas, we took 2 weeks off and just put everything out. So there's 2 weeks left of racing, then on week 13. So there's 3 weeks till week 1 iRacing starts again, and I like to try and just keep us 6-week seasons, 12 weeks iRacing. It fits nice. So yeah, the other thing is I've had a few people asking if they can come and have a go without, fully committing to the main championship. So I'm going to open it up for the next 3 weeks. I've got about 10 requests there, and we're just going to have some fun races, and it's just to keep the momentum going as well, really, so that people don't get bored and go and do something else.
Alrighty, well, we certainly look forward to that, and the schedule for season 6. Your process behind putting that one together?
I probably didn't put enough content tracks in the last season, and a few drivers kind of said, hey, it's a bit expensive, and the whole idea of the skippies is to keep it cheap and fun, so I kind of just cherry picked the best of the free ones, and there's a couple there that they're not free, but I'm sure everyone will have. And 2 enduros, the drivers seem to like them, so put them in the middle. And we got some short tracks, some longer tracks, we've been to Lime Rock before, but not with the back chicane. So yeah, it should be a good season, I reckon. Won't cost too much, a lot of free tracks, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Should be good.
As always, going to be lots of fun here on Simspeed TV, as always, on Thursday nights at 7:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Time, 6:30 Standard Time. Anything else you want to say, Ira, before we let you go?
Yeah, I just quickly want to thank all the sponsors and everyone involved, Simfinity and also Prestige Trophy for the nice real-life trophies. They post them all over Australia and New Zealand. So thanks for Marty looking after me. You guys for making us look good every week, and also Nick and David in the comms. Nick, when you steal him off Race Control. And yeah, just want to thank my two guys, Race Control, Jonathan, and also obviously Jay and Scott behind the scenes, and all the drivers. They're the ones who make it. So we've got a really good little thing going here. So yeah, just wanted to thank everyone. I've had so much fun racing these cars. I think Braden just pipped me for a top 5 there. So goes to show you, old and slow can do not too bad. So yeah, thanks Ryan, and thanks everybody. I really appreciate it. Cheers.
No worries. Oh, sorry. Just one last quick question. How
Yes.
much will the ballast be for Cameron Dance next season?
Oh well, I'm not actually sure if he's coming back yet, but he hasn't said anything. He's pretty quiet, rocks up at the end of the practice and puts it on pole and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. No, we'll see. Oh, look, he had I should say actually, congratulations to the top 3. Russell, James did very good coming in first season, and Cameron, he deserved to win, but he did have a bit of luck there. So, and I just want to quickly mention Jeremy Bush as well. Last season he was kind of mid-pack down the back, and he's had a bit of bad luck too, but he's really improved. I'd say he's the most improved driver overall.
Thank you very much, Ira. We will
Right,
talk
thanks,
to
Ryan.
you next season. And that'll do us for tonight. We got another broadcast coming up in 8 minutes here on SimSpeed TV, and I'm on it. Oh no. And Reese is as well. Jay's got to go. And we'll be back, though, for the Ozicar Formula Skip Barber Series in 4 weeks' time for Season 6. Go and like Ozicar on Facebook, though, because they've got a fun, open to everyone, free, unbroadcasted, no pressure season of 3 tracks, just for fun, coming up, though, over the next 3 weeks. So get amongst that. But for tonight, from myself, Ryan Jones, David Haynes alongside of me, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, and Simon Mazzomo as well, thank you for joining us. See you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get involved.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?